Hey everyone, good morning. Mature Simmer here. So back here on Lomeric's farm, day after I had planted, so it is time to go ahead and fertilize. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. So as always, a bit of a challenge in the early morning hours here, where it's not always the easiest to see what is happening. But I will certainly do my best. Get ourselves across the top. Obviously, we'll be able to probably use the map a bit as well. So go ahead and get set to the line, and then I should be able to go ahead and go. There we go. So that'll get us going there. We'll drive around the bottom, and then we'll come and take these things back. But this shouldn't be too terribly long. This should be a quick run. Then I should have some things over on J Dude's farm, and the real question becomes, there's a new FM, Christy Q, who has got a big harvest today of, I think it's soybeans. So I may go do that just for some variety and do that. I don't know if I want to do it first, or I guess I'll have to see, because it's planting an herbicide, I think, on J Dude's farm, if I have the days correct, which I think I do, because that's the challenge. But let's stay on the field, because that way we can turn a bit more aggressively. But my field's fertilized. It doesn't need to be weeded, so I had gone through and done the second layer already. I used the spreader, the little spreader from Lomeric. He had a small one. It took a few passes still, but wasn't too bad. Alright, so just see if I can see. So there we go. And now I should be able to just go up and down the field and get that taken care of. So I don't have anything specific this morning to really get into. Nothing much of note has occurred. So this is what I've got to do on this farm, and then, as I said, we will make our next choice. So I will see you in a bit. Alright, so a little over an hour and I'm done. Everything's cleaned up, parked, repaired. We're good to go. Did figure out, in case you run into that if you're in Farmers Only Club, that I can use the repair trailer. So we've got it over there by the BGA, like I'm pointing at it now with my circle. So if you can see it over there. So I am able to repair equipment. Obviously I don't see the dollars or anything like that. So I'm going to go take a look at that harvest that's running today and see if it's active. And if it is, I may join in there. If not, I will jump over to my other farm. So I'll see you in a bit. Alright, so jumped over here. Just figured I'd give you a quick view. It's supposed to be September for the harvest, so we've got almost 2 hours that we need to wait. So I can't do anything here anyway. I noticed no one was on the server, but figured I'd still jump in. So it's the yellow farm. Aha. Some nice, crazy big fields. It's actually probably one of the bigger farms. The pink farm, I suppose, is another one on the map here that actually that's almost it. I guess there's purple farms kind of taking all the quote-unquote little fields. This is Wild West. It's a 16x map, so little is again relative. So you can see it is only 6 acres. But this field here is 755 acres, and then this is 200. And this one is 181. So, yeah, there's a lot of acres here. And I think they said it was a sunflower harvest, so I'm assuming all these things are sunflowers. So yeah, this is an operation, I'll tell you that. So they got what? They got 6 harvesters just here. I think they said they have 10 available, but do they own all 10? Wow. They actually own 11, so maybe they picked up one more. This is massive farming in a way that, yeah, is just a bit impressive. Let's just say that. All right, so here we are, dropped in on server 5. It is March, early morning March. So these are the fields that were planted earlier with canola. They're still growing away. So we have 4 fields that need to be worked. So I'm guessing he thought he had somebody using some, and I guess they backed out and decided they didn't want to. But these 2 fields and then these 2 fields need to be planted and herbicide today. So given that it's early enough, I'm just going to go ahead and start planting, and they're all supposed to be canola, so he is canolaing this year quite a bit, it looks like. So, well, I guess it's just this, and then I think he's got a few other fields. Alright, so I am going to begin planting here. I gotta be careful that I don't run into the other field, because I think that crop can be damaged. But I'd like to be able to get this whole thing planted, so I'm just being careful here. So there we go. I think I got everything there. Looks like I did. Oh boy. So let me lift this up in case we clip the field. Looks like maybe I'll be okay. So these articulated trailers are always good for stuff like this. So let's see if I can now straighten out. Lower this down again. Turn it on. And then we'll go ahead and go and get this going. And so I've set this a little wider, because field 67 down there is further over, as you can tell. I kind of eyeballed it. I'm hoping I'm right. But what I can do on this farm then is do what I can here for, say, you know, the next little bit today, knowing that just from interest, I think I'll probably be hopping over. This is just not gonna go, darn it. Eek. Alright, well, what I'll do, because it makes sense, is I'm going to see if I can back up a little bit more. I'm going to need to move that line over a little bit at least. So the benefit will be that obviously it's been planted, and then of course now it's too far over. So that was not quite what I wanted to do. So let me back this up a bit more if I can. This is definitely having to manhandle this thing. It's probably not helpful that I am kind of down in the... I've got the things lowered, so the planter is lowered. So you know what, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to just move this over here. And I'm going to do it this way because otherwise I'm going to have a problem coming back. So let me go ahead and do this. Get moving, because of course the fertilizer kind of keeps dropping out. But basically, as I run back, if I don't do this, and I kind of come in a little bit, which is what I was trying to do at an angle, I'm going to have stuff left. So what I was trying to avoid was some sort of little run that I needed to do. So the guidance before our couple 3-day break, whatever it was that 74 and 75 we didn't do much with. He had me lime the remainder of 75, and I thought it was just in prep for being nice to the other farmer, because initially he said, well, I think someone is sharing interest in wanting to lease those fields or work them, whether it was a crop share, whatever it is, because now that I kind of understand how folks in FOC do stuff with their fields when they've got a ton of fields. Oh boy, I should have known better. Like, I just ran into this. Like, it's just so hard to jam these back. Alright, I think I'm just gonna have to bite the bullet and fold this up and then let it do its thing, and then maybe I can do something different. But you can see, just even folding it, it's shoving the tractor forward. So now let me see, like, at least I can move it. Maybe I could have moved it a little bit the other way, but I just need to get kind of past the tree here. Let's see, I want to go this way. And I'm probably just going to have to do something to straighten things out. So I'll just keep you with me. It's the good, the bad, and the ugly in Farming Simulator. Clint Eastwood is not the only one. It is me as well. So, but no, if I can do this and then get down here, normally at the ends, or where I'm creating a headland, I need to do that. Oh, come on, get clear of that tree. Don't do this to me. Alright, so hopefully we're okay. Of course, maybe not. We'll see when this rotates back if it'll hit all of it. It won't. Gosh darn it, there's one little piece there. It's always something. But I need two passes to be able to give myself enough room to turn this monstrosity around. So it looks like there's a few little withered plants, so when they harvested this, it wasn't the cleanest job ever. Some farmers are okay with that, some farmers are not. I got feedback from one of the farmers that I had missed a little bit plowing. There were like little plants sticking up here and there, and I always take that seriously because obviously they're paying me to do a job, and if they're unhappy with what they're seeing, I run the risk of them saying I'll just do it either with someone else or do it myself. And sometimes we do have the reality. I mean, if it's someone who's just, if you want the job done right, you have to do it yourself, and you just can't live up to their expectations, for both of your sanity, sometimes it might make sense to be like, I'm just going to do something else, and just be honest with them and let them know, and part ways and go from there. So, trying to avoid things coming to that. I usually try pretty hard to do that, unless they're really being unreasonable. I've not run into anybody like that. I mean, certainly expecting things to get completed. Just to me, sometimes, because when you're thinking about it, if you're paying, again, here I'm getting paid $13,000 an hour. It's almost like a corporate CEO in America. Where you're making $16 million a year or whatever. Like at some point, like swinging around and planting that, even though it only took like 15 seconds, that's probably like hundreds of dollars. And you're not going to get hundreds of dollars off of that. The fact that, 1 liter of seeds was planted over there. So it's one of those that typically what I find is I do my best, and if I miss a little bit here or there, I would think, in my case, if it was my farm, I'd be like, that's fine, because they saved me $500 to gain me 3. So we'll just, call it even and go from there. But in the end, obviously, I want to do what I can do. So, these are the easy ones. 74, 75 will be trickier. But what I was starting to basically get at in the beginning is, because this is early, like I can just do what I can do, and someone else can come in and clean up afterwards if they need to. So the dynamic seems to be, and until I disprove it, or validate it, like I'm operating under the least risky option. So again, in risk assessment, which I do a lot of in my role as a project manager or a strategy advisor and so forth, there's these things called risk registers. And so on a risk register, aside from naming the risks, you basically assign a probability. It's how much cost would occur if this risk was to come to happen, and then how likely is the risk to happen. So, the classic example is, for a lot of businesses or something, and certainly a farm would be one of them, you'll go ahead and you'll list a lot of natural occurrences, natural disasters. And so if you list them all, things that are a possible risk on the planet, a volcanic eruption is certainly one of those. But on a map like this, where it's pretty flat, there's always the possibility that there's a hidden volcano underground somewhere that is suddenly going to obliterate Papenburger. But what you need to then understand is that's highly unlikely. So while it does exist, did they plant this already? I am confused. Let me look here, because obviously if I'm no, they didn't. Interesting. I just was confused why the lime doesn't exist here. They are there in the tracks, but in any event, okay. So we'll get this, and then, as I said, 74, 75 are going to be the behemoths that we've got to look at. Those will be big. And what I probably want to try to remember to do is to just refill everything and top it off before I head over there. I think there's some bins over there. I just don't know if everything exists, if seeds and fertilizer are there. And it would be a shame to get really, really close and then suddenly run out and have to run all the way back to do that. So one of the other things, kind of the only my farm thing that I have right now, because, for now, my farm doesn't occupy a lot of time here, of my time yet, because my farm is one 26-acre field, and I'm just getting started, and therefore there's just not a lot going on. My canola is growing, just like everyone else's canola is growing. And I'm waiting for harvest to come up at this point, because I inherited or purchased a plowed field. I didn't inherit it, I bought it. And therefore, this year at least, I don't have these wonderful weeds that have sprouted up on this field. You know, I'm wondering if I could do the experiment. Well, but he sprays with herbicides, so he does take care of them. But I might still be able to use this to learn the situation. I don't know. I may not. So anyway, I digress and got myself confused and on a tangent. But I think what I've decided, and it is what I've decided right now, the thing I think comes in, because there's still a part of me that just is like, well, but if I have the money to do something, I should do that something, and then forego something else, and just save for that separately. But sitting on money into another year seems challenging. So let me explain what that means. So basically at this point, nothing has changed because I just haven't gotten paid by anyone. I've got some outstanding stuff per normal agreements. So I have owed money or earned income that has not been collected yet. You know, in theory, I guess you could say it's been invoiced. You know what, let me run this across too. As I said, I need to have 2 of them. I need 2 of them here too, although I think that's a grass field, but it's not going to hurt to just turn around earlier. But let me just spit out what I'm getting at, because I keep like digressing and diverting myself. So I think it makes sense to save up and get Field 36 as soon as I possibly can, and then go down the path of, saving and buying equipment as I can. Because at this point, as I think I said last time, like, I could outright afford to buy a harvester for the most part at this point. I could buy a harvester for certain. Could I buy a bigger harvester that would be the one I'd stick with forever? I'm probably a little 100,000 short at this point, but between even just probably what I'll do today and what I've got in the books, I think I've got that. So in, because I think we just obviously left server 4, which is my home server, and we're in May over there. So, I've got now, I think, 3 more months before anything could be harvestable. So in 3 months, it wouldn't be a challenge to make the 100, but it may be a challenge to make 500. So therein was kind of where my thing was, is like, well, I could, rather than leasing a harvester or whatever this time, I could just buy the harvester and have it and be done, and have that purchase. But then obviously it kicks the can down the road of owning Field 36, probably at least a couple game years, because at that point I'd pretty much be down to 0, and I'd be having to build up $1 million again. So I'd be kind of in that same boat where I got to 1.3 million before I became, or put in my FM application. But keep in mind, that took me, basically 28, 30 days, whatever it was. So I would need almost another month, which is going to be, full game time. And so I'm thinking what I want to do is buy the field, and then if I've got to work it for a couple years with small equipment, or, maybe, borrow neighbors' equipment if they let me do that, but that seems to make more sense, because then I have the land, which is the main resource that I need. Because right now, even though I typically, I want a small farm, and as I said, I'll grow bigger by using AI, but to use AI, I need multiple pieces of equipment, or I need something that is a job that still ultimately requires you to use multiple pieces of equipment, but it's different equipment. So I brought this up in a chat with the guys, and basically they're like, well, but like for harvest, that's not true. You don't need multiple harvesters. You could just have one harvester, let the AI run the harvester, and then you run the truck to unload it. You know, run the grain cart to grab things, and you do that because the AI can't really do that. But it still is faster because the harvester just keeps running, and you're just emptying it so that it can keep running. So, you know, I'll certainly approach that, especially with grain. But ultimately, the thing I did enjoy on Lomeric's farm was kind of having all those cotton harvesters running. That was cool. And doing that and just then going around and letting them operate because they self-unload and don't need to be unloaded. That's the one crop that really doesn't require anything different to be done. Alright, so we got 2 more passes here, it looks like, but relatively quick work here. So popped out, got the worksheet updated, got my morning coughing out of the way. Yes, I said coughing, not coffee. Those of you that sometimes have watched for a while, sometimes it's just a little bit of throat clearing and stuff that I've said, you know, it's kind of my lot in life at this point, you know, after you've been sleeping for a while. Don't know what it is, but we are under a particulate warning here in the area we live in, all the way to midnight of today unless they extend it. So I don't know if that's specifically pollen, or we've been having things from the Canadian wildfires through the spring with the summer. You know, we kind of been told it's going to likely be the whole year. It just depends how things float around in the atmosphere. But as of like yesterday afternoon, I've had this constant tickle in my throat that feels like stuff stuck in there, but it's not the, you know, gross phlegmy type thing. It's just makes me feel like I want to cough. So I'm thinking it's whatever this particulate matter is, you know, even in a house, you're not fully safe from it. Because obviously, if your house was airtight, you would die because you wouldn't get any air. Alright, so I think, well, as I said, see, I almost forgot. As I said, though, I need to fill this up, so let me go do that. This is a grass field, unless they've changed it. I'll know very quickly as I drive into it. Okay, we're okay. I probably need to circle and swing out more, because this now becomes the challenge of filling this sucker with that arm sticking out, which has a really big reach. So that is the one thing I've kind of determined, because obviously part of what I'm also now thinking of is which products or, you know, which buildings do I enjoy working with and which ones are a challenge. So while this Meridian silo certainly gives you a compact footprint to do a lot of things, it's got a very tiny load point is the problem. So, you know, and it's like with this building that he just gave us, see, like, I'm gonna run into that building even there, and then you're like trying to get, you know, everything in. I think this will work, maybe. I don't know if it was here or somewhere else, I was able to get that to pull free, because at this point this is going to rotate. Let's see, I may have to just move it again. See, I think I'm too close, but we'll see. Come on. Alright, it's letting me fill. It's the most important thing, because then I can get the seed bins topped off and the fertilizer. So, You know, to use this with something like this, I need a lot of space. And even here, like, that building wasn't there. Like, he put up that, I think it's a fertilizer factory recently. Alright, that's giving us the other items, so I made it without having to go around again. But like last time, and it was still tricky though, because with the truck there and all of that, it's been a bit of a challenge. So I like the fact that the meridians give you kind of everything storage, where you don't have to put up individual bins. But there is also something to be said to have the individual meridian bins, because their capacity is larger, I think. But they just take up more physical space. But then I also think their trigger points are a little bit bigger. I mean, they're still just right in front of each silo, so you'd have to like run along the line, where the nice thing with that trigger point is it's the same trigger point. So I think this will get me where I need to get to 74, 75. I need to get up to the tree line and then head off to the right. So I had scoped that out. Alright, we've got someone synchronizing in. That's the boss man. So I may have to pop off to chat with him for a bit. We'll see. But yeah, I kind of looked where I needed to go, and I think I need to head up this way and then get to 74, 75. And my hope is that I've got enough product to do both of those. If there's anything I've discovered with using these Borgalts on various farms, is they do get a lot of acreage done with what you've got. And canola's not a heavy seed crop, so I think I'll be okay, but obviously I can't guarantee that. So we shall see. Good news is we have enough room to turn here. So we have to get through the trees then, and then basically the dots are there of the field that we need. So I'm going to take a bit of a break to chat with the boss, and may or may not come back and show you anything more on this. I mean, you know what I'm doing. There's the lime that I put down the other day. So everything is still as it was, but I am certainly curious what ended up happening with these fields, because it would have frankly been easier for me to work them before. Today's a little bit tighter of a day, because I'd like to participate in that sunflower harvest, but anyway. So I will go chat with him. I'll see you in a bit, or not. Alright, so I'm just about finishing up here. Had a little bit of confusion, had a bit of chatter. Whoops. I did not mean... Sometimes that happens. It's Alt-X to get off of the GPS line, and X to fold equipment. So if somehow you are not hitting the Alt fast enough, you just hit X, and then your equipment starts folding like that. So I thought I had been given the answer about what happened with these fields, because he said, hey, the guy that was going to run the big fields has decided not to. So and I thought, oh, well, then he's just giving me this answer because to me these are the big fields. And he said, well, we're going to plant soy. And I'm like, wait, like you had on the work list that it was canola, and I'm literally getting ready to put the plow into the planter into the ground here. So I need to know. And still confused me in his response, obviously, because ultimately what ended up happening is I'm like, oh, okay, well, if we're not doing soy and we can't plant soy today, I guess I'm done. And that meant I would have only had like half an hour of work that I was getting paid for here, which is disappointing. But, we do what he needs to do. But then one of the nice benefits here in Farmers Only Club that we've talked about is the server chat shows up in the Discord and vice versa. So I was able to look back when I had popped out, because I still had a couple comments to give him that I just did in the Discord, and he's like, well, you could, no, go ahead and plant 74, 75. And I'm like, wait a minute, you just said the big fields. He's like, those aren't the big fields. The big fields are 77 and 78, which are these. And he's also looking at eventually maybe buying 79. So that led to a conversation, which is a topic that I haven't covered here yet in detail. So there's this concept called prestige, which exists here in Farmers Only Club. Nothing I'm really interested in. It's one of those that is, it's a kind of the long-term competition. It's for bragging rights. It's nothing more than that, where you earn prestige points, and then there's a prestige leaderboard. So the leader, for example, has 1,195 points. I think it's Wagon Master, who was the FM that I was working for or with on the same server I'd be going to for this harvest on the Wild West map, and doing the tons and tons of sugarcane. So, makes sense why they were able to get there and so forth. But there's certainly two schools of thought, where there's those of us who say you can achieve the same thing without going through this whole prestige process, but for those who want the bragging rights, and as the FM that is thinking about doing it that I'm working for here, they used a bit more adult term, but to keep the video PC as much as possible, or PG, I should say. We'll go with bragging rights. And yeah, if that's what drives you, that's what drives you. But it's a made-up world here, and going through that effort just to be able to tell people, look, I'm number 3 or whatever, just not my thing. I don't need that validation that way. So but the point was, like, you could go to field 41, which is the one that I started planting today, and say, hey, that's the only field I have. Or like right now, we're on 42. So let's say, oh, I'm starting my farm. This is all I've got. Like, you could still recreate starting over yourself, but basically the way prestige works is there's tiers, and so you have to get to the first tier, which requires you to have $5 million in assets and money. And then you can prestige, and basically for every 100,000 in that value, you get a prestige point. So you'd get 50 immediately for your $5 million prestige. And each tier, there's also then a multiplier. So it's just 1, so you're just getting 50 times 1. But in the second tier through the 5th, which are the ones that they have created, basically it goes up a little bit each time. So let me get this all repaired. Get in here so it's a little, well, it's going to be loud with a pressure washer. But want to chat, not make this super, well, let me wash and then I'll talk with you. So basically, each tier, you then go up to 6 million for tier 2, then 8 million, then 10 million, then 12 million. That gets you up to the 5 tiers. And then each one has a multiplier. So the second tier would then be 1.2, and then I think it's 1.4 for the next one. So you kind of get it. And so basically, you'd have to have 6 million for tier 2 times 1.2, so you're going to get 60, and then, the additional 20%. So you'd get 72 points if that's all you had. But obviously, if you have more worth, assets and cash, then you get more prestige points. So, the 1,195 prestige points, I guess, represents over $1 billion, or maybe even higher than that. Have to do the math, but it's 1195 times 100,000. So maybe it's 119 million, or no, it's probably 1,119,000,000 million, so forth and so on. So for the leader, but you know, you could just accumulate that money and you would have it and you would see it, and it works the same way. But some people want to do that, where I think if I was going that route and I wanted to just challenge myself of being small, like, it's like, hey, of all my equipment, like, I can only use this, and I'm going to do this for a while. But then you have the flexibility of, all right, I'm done with this joy and the experiment, and I'm now just, you know, I want to farm this year bigger, and so I'm stepping out of that and I'm doing something else. But that is where things are at. So my guess is at this point, you know, because you know, that multi-giant farming thing, that's how I began in farming simulator multiplayer. I'll explain more of that once I'm on there, but I'm thinking at this point there may not be that many people there, but let's go see. Alright, so here I am on Wild West. I have done this whole field, so I've been on for a couple hours maybe. Not sure exactly, but doesn't really matter. So sadly, not what I was hoping for, which was a harvest party. Which, again, I've been a part of a couple of those, but that's why I was looking forward to it, because they're pretty rare. Well, I guess they're pretty rare here as well. So, talking with the FM, and there was another FM on who has come and gone in the time I've been here. There's just the amount of players. People aren't interested because, of course, they're running their own farms. So, sadly, that is still the reality, and I think it just will turn into, like it does on YouTube channels, where, hey, you get a bunch of people together and plan it, and, you know, hey, we're going to make a video out of it or something, or it just obviously isn't just going to happen because someone throws an advertisement out there. So I've been the only one. They said they've had one other person that responded that might show up. Initially I was like, yeah, I'll just maybe finish this field and call it, but I think I'll do a little bit more for them. Not really anything specific that I need to do, and at the end of the day, I get paid, so, you know, earning a bit more money wouldn't be a bad thing. So I just figured I would pop in and let you know. They are at this point doing some stuff down here, but I think the challenge ends up being, if they start with AI, I think they're not letting them run for whatever reason. I mean, some of that may be their balance. I mean, you can see now there's something happening, but I don't know why, but I can't see like what is actually doing stuff. So it looks like they're taking that, which is the repair unit, off the field. We just talked about that. They repaired me once. They kind of pulled up next to me, and that was a while back, so I'm up to like 6%. Probably 10-15 minutes ago we chatted, so I think I'm okay. But I'm going to get this field done. Then they want me to move to 33, which is the little one here. I kind of half jokingly said, ooh, do we get to do 85 if I stay on a little bit longer? But they said 33 first. So, yeah, we'll see. I guess they're going to put, because they have me fill a truck and then they move the other one in so that I can just empty into it, which will be the situation when I come back next time, because I will be filling that other truck, because I think it's got like 5,000 liters, and as you can see going across, I've got already 7,000 and still a ways to go. I don't remember if I honestly don't know if I break 10 or not. I've had a couple times where I've forgotten to empty at the end and then ran into their crop a couple times, but luckily caught it right away, so it's not been too bad. But yeah, just a bit disappointed that I figured with it being a Saturday, some people said it's Saturday morning. I get that, I suppose, but I might be. Obviously, I'm the only one who plays in the morning sometime or whatever. But I kind of will do stuff at any point during the day. I'm an equal opportunity contributor. But that's the situation as it stands right now. Alright, so I'm thinking it's going to be a couple. I'm going to get like a partial row next time. I should have enough room. He did move the truck a bit, but it's a little close to that bridge. But it's not like I can't back onto the bridge, but it's certainly a bit more challenging that way. So yeah, booked my hours with J-Dude for the planting this morning. Looks like that's going to get me 23,000, and I've probably got 8 or 9 hours in this year with Lomeric, so that'll give me another 60,000-70,000. So I've got about a little under 100,000, probably more safely saying that, hey, it's $8,000 or I'm sorry, 80,000 maybe. It's probably the best I'm going to see off of what I've got. So hence the reason I'm like, well, if I'm around, I'll just keep pressing ahead. But at this point, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up, and I will see you next time.